When we look at a medical trial, how do we know that it's the medication or the treatment that's given that's actually causing the change in symptoms or change in disease status and not something else? Hi, I'm Dr. Sarah Margolin, and I have a PhD in cognitive and sensory processes. Welcome to my series, In Plain Science, where I pull back the curtain on all things science. In this episode, we're going to talk about confounding variables. Confounding variables are the variables of interest that might not actually be of interest in that moment. So, for a medical trial, we're most interested in the medication or the treatment and what it does to the disease state or the symptoms of the thing we're trying to treat. How do we know that there's other things that might be interesting, like nutrition, that are not causing the changes we're seeing? So those extra variables could be extraneous or extra, or they could be confounding. And they would be confounding if they're changing along with the manipulation that we've made and might be impacting our outcome without us knowing it. So in the example of medical research and the medication trials, we might have people who are in our experimental group who are getting that treatment but are also changing their diet. And so then we don't know if the changes that we're seeing in their symptoms or their disease status are because of the medication or because of the dietary changes that they've made. So another example might come from my research on reading. If I'm looking to see if difficult text results in lower comprehension than an easier text, that's going to be the only thing that I'm wanting to compare. So if that's all I want to compare, then I need to be very careful that there's other things that are not different between those two conditions. So it needs to be necessary that I'm not also changing maybe the size of the font. I'm also not changing things about distractions or grade level or content or interest. If one is funny and one is not, or one is in a big typeface and one is in a small typeface, then we're going to see that there's confounding variables that might be causing the changes that we're seeing in our outcome. So what do we do? What do we do most commonly is to just hold that constant, to always make that the same. So in a medication trial, we want the control group and the experimental group to not change their diet, to always be doing the same thing. In my research, I would want to hold all of those other variables constant. Make sure that everything's in the same typeface. Make sure that there's no distractions anywhere. Make sure that the interest level is the same, that one isn't humorous and one's dry. And by doing that, now we can kind of narrow down and make sure that the thing that we're manipulating, the thing that we're changing about the text, about the treatment, is the only thing that's impacting the outcome. And then we can draw our conclusions based on that. I hope this was helpful. Please share if you know somebody who would be interested, and follow along for another episode of In Plain Science.